Well, that's good. Lori is, that's gonna make that, I don't know if you knew, but Lori, yeah, she's going through cancer treatment. And, but we just had, I was I was at the doctor yesterday and my wife started having dinner yesterday. And she called me, stopped and so I got there about 7:30. And she kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. Under the weather.
Pretty sure, you know, that it's only like that last day or open more and things really.
Well,
Yeah, it's.
It's mine. Oh, this workshop is happening, we have 7 months left.
Oh, yeah, she lives in
As of
Redmond,
today, as of the time we drove
and
over.
I live on the other side of the chutes. We're maybe a mile into the eyes, but she lives in a proper. Development, nice house on the hill, true, nice view.
No, but they're local, they're
One for the dogs about this square, so they're always bringing over our.
they are, they're at the workhouse. And they're also downtown. I don't know. Like, this is.
Is that what that thing is? Or is it just water? Looks like it's just that one. Oh.
that's Amanda's coming.
Oh,
But she might not. Sometimes she runs a little bit late.
well then I'll sit on the outside where it's close to.
But if you want. A coffee shop out.
Oh, maybe that's.
Yeah.
How soon? 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh.
We might not miss. So.
Okay.
I'm aware of that website.
Okay. And then. Everybody gets online to see their. Oh, we just started.
And it's
Are you, is it live now?
You're gonna see us.
Are we, is volume on and all that sort of stuff?
is that a website?
I don't know. Yes, messages. Like, yeah. That's like a send.
Day off. Day off, so the other most expensive seat.
And,
I see.
Alice, Dan, Mark, and Paul, can you hear me?
we said.
And say yes and say no.
Beyond there.
It's so they can hear us.
So is it published in your paper?
Has 4 books out. Published about
30 poems a year, where do you publish it?
I really want you to read my work, so I have poems. I still read association. Christian Century, Manchester magazines.
Yes.
And, you know, I have a friend who always sends me top-notch places that. Like, I really like you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm with you, Carol, I'm with you. So, do you know authors published, do you know that?
No.
Find out it's free. Every 2 weeks, they send you all kinds of tips like that. It's called authors published.
Yes.
Just Google authors published. And read it.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you
Yeah.
for this.
Fast.
Let me catch your name again.
Eric.
Eric. 2 hours?
Yep, 2 hours and 2 days.
Okay. Okay, so I'll look it up and read one of their poems.
Right.
Is there one you're particularly proud of?
I'm just starting to figure out.
You know, my latest book, the entire book is dedicated to about very use all of them, but
Actually, the last one.
was incredibly. All of it.
Thank you.
Very good. Constantly. Oh, yeah. So, so when he's poet.
Pastor, good sales.
Okay. Oh, there you go. So, yeah, so that's what this color reading. I was reading with. Oh, he was a, farmer and musician. All those his, all the guys to his age, but he was. I didn't stop because I don't, so there are. Sounds good. So I'm pleased. Perfect. Those flowers.
Record today.
My God.
Yeah.
His experience doesn't mean. Yeah, I like to think. I try to get that. And it's just. I was like, oh, the guy still. Yeah. Like came in and found it was like. Yes. They grabbed seats for us. Again. I'm saying. You're going to. Yeah. I'll sign that. Yeah. It's my first time here. No, the person who had overtime. Yeah. You should. Yes. See the first thing. I haven't told my friends. Can't, sorry.
So.
They're trying to test their wings.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the problem. You live here long enough. I was like, oh, okay. Same old, same old. How long have you been here? Yeah. They said, which was work. It's not as big on my house. Oh, and 60. But I don't. What is that?
Do they move around or is that like? Yeah. It looks like.
That was it.
It's like.
Like upwards color. Yes.
That's, but maybe it's completely probably next door now. That's what the problem was. That's.
I have to.
He said, yeah. Gotta go wait till.
Yeah.
We good to go. All right. Did you get the board?
out there, that's really nice.
Yeah, good, yeah, and it's,
Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me without that?
Yes.
Yeah, so Irene and I are gonna talk tonight and we're probably gonna not use that speaker. That speaker is a voice amplifier and it speaks to this. If we try and use a microphone and this at the same time, it creates an echo. So if you can hear us without it, then we're talking straight to the owl, which is going to the folks at home, and that's our recording, and it comes out a little bit cleaner. So, yeah, that's the owl. So welcome to the July 2026 monthly meeting of the Central Oregon Writers Guild. This is our first meeting at the library. Ladies and gentlemen, Liz Goodrich, who has helped us at the time. How many of you have been to the library already? Yeah, good for you. Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. We have been doing quiet writing on Tuesday mornings up on the third floor in the third floor meeting room, and it's great view, lovely place to be. Come join us if you're free at 9:30 on Tuesdays. We have Irene and I are going to kind of continue on with what we're going to talk about tonight. On Saturday, we have the meeting room upstairs for a workshop. And that workshop is from 1 to 4 p.m. There are spaces left in that workshop if you want to sign up. We're going to get more in depth and work on your specific work on Tuesday, where tonight we're going to do a writing exercise and we're going to kind of play with that and use that as an example of how to do writing and rewriting and revision and editing and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to briefly go over events and things on our website here. We have a featured reader this evening, and then Irene and I will get into it. And if we'll have a writing exercise. So if you have something hardback to write on, or if you have your laptop or however you write, great. Otherwise, there are clipboards as being displayed by our hand model, Rob, in the back here. And there's some paper and pens back there, so feel free to grab those. If you haven't grabbed the name tag at some point, you might want to do that too. After we're done, part of the reason that we come together in person as a community here is because writing is a very individual act. And it's solitary act. We even in groups, when we write by ourselves. But it's really great to hang out and talk to other writers, be inspired by them, hear what they're doing, learn from them, and that sort of stuff. And so community is a major part of the Central Oregon Writers Guild. Thus the name tags, and thus being able to walk around and say, hi, you're so-and-so and I'm so-and-so, and tell me about your life and all that sort of stuff. So hide that. So on the website, so sharing the website opening page on here and on Zoom. So our website has on the left side, we have our events. So there is me and my beautiful wife there, what we're going to do this evening. This is a little bit more detailed about what we'll be doing on Saturday. Next month, we have Danny Nichols, who's going to talk to us about metaphors. In September, Jane Kirkpatrick is going to come talk to us. In October, we have Leva Moss, who's going to talk about publishing, promoting your work. And she also has a workshop in October, and that'll be held here at the library as well. November, Denise is going to talk to us about screenwriting, and which I'm looking forward to. I just took a brief little class on screenwriting, and I've been working with some people who are doing some screenwriting, so I want to learn more about that. December, we have our holiday potluck. down at the very bottom, we have all of the previous Writers Guild meetings from the beginning of the pandemic when we went offline. So we have been recording our meetings. So if there's something that you want to go back through there and YouTube and find out about, all that stuff is in there. The right side of this website has events that are going on in town. So these are the quiet writing events: Helena Springs on Monday, here at the library Tuesday, Redmond Library Wednesday, Open Art Center Wednesday nights. I'm going to go for my first time to the one tomorrow night at the Open Art Center. Barber Library COCC is doing quiet writing on Thursdays from noon to 1:30, and then Sisters Library on Thursdays 10:30 to noon. All of our events, or all of the things that we know about that are going on in town, are listed on, or in the Oregon, are listed on this right side. So here's our tonight's event. Author readings, spoken word night, both in Bend and Redmond. Crane Castlebaum's doing some cool stuff. This is she's got some great things, several of them. She's a very busy woman going on through here. The workshop I spoke about. Irene and I also do a writing salon on the third Saturday of every month. So after our workshop, we're going to run home and do a writing salon. And that's just an online sharing. We usually will do a prompt. If you click on this, you can find out more about. We do a prompt, and then we just get together our little Zoom faces like the Brady Bunch, and we read and share and have a lovely little time. Irene's got a class on poetry on July 23rd here at the library. More author readings. Helena Springs has an event called the Pause Button, which is a social writing event, social writing and sharing. Our friend Billy Featherston has been doing these word for word writing workshops at Cafe de Chutes on the first Monday, and those are great. Who's been to those? I know a couple of people in here have been to those. Those are great. Howell has some things going on. That's right near Cafe de Chutes there. Lori Hollis is going to do a discussion, details equals credibility, and she is a nonfiction. Well, she's a everything writer, but she's a nonfiction writer and has done some crime writing sort of stuff. So she's in the middle of another book right now, and so she'll be sharing about that. Raging Writers is another great thing. Who's been to Raging Writers at Sport on the second Sunday? Those are super fun. Irene is part of that organization there. More Crana, and then Danny next month, and so on and so forth. So lots of stuff going on. Willamette Writers Conference is coming up at the end of the month. Anybody going over to that or going online? Carol is. They do online versions of that too. So, and they also do agents and pitches. So that might be something. I think there's still time to get in on that. We put out some information about our 10-month online writing program, the Forge. Bookmarks in the back, and if you're interested, there's a sheet to sign up. Give us your email. We'll get in touch with you. And if you want to talk about it, we're recruiting for our September start again this year, and then the Pacific Northwest Writing Conference is in October. Okay, so and who's got anything they want to talk about or share? Harold.
This year, the Oregon Poetry Association is meeting early, the last weekend of August 28th to 29th in Salem. I happen to be doing a workshop. I'm the only poet from the state that's doing a workshop. I'd love to have you come. Sign up on Submittable by Thursday, otherwise the rate goes up. So 2 days from now is the deadline for getting sites over there if you'd like to come. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other news?
Is there on the website, Maya? Where's the information?
The say again.
Submittable. Just Google submittable. And it's there. Yeah.
Oregon Poetry Association. Okay. Anybody else? Any cool stuff happen in your life? Has anybody written anything this week? Yeah, summertime, we should just be writing and writing and writing, right? Okay. I'm gonna introduce our featured reader tonight, Bob Sandberg, who's gonna share with us. Bob has led a very busy life. He received a Bronze Star for his service in Vietnam, attained his master's degree in sociology with minors in political science and business administration. He's worked in labor relations and opened 4 businesses. He has a patent on an invention. I kind of want to know more about that. Is a multi-sport athlete. He's competed in the pole paddle solo 20 times.
Wow.
Right? Hiked the Three Sisters in one day, taught and wrote a book on cross-country skiing, is currently looking for his next adventure, and he has pre-picked his epitaph, which is, if you want an interesting life, just say yes. So let's welcome Bob up here.
I got it for you.
Do you? Okay, all right. I'll let you go for it.
Thanks for doing that, Mike. I kind of like to meet that guy.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of interesting. Bob Sandberg, I guess I'm getting kind of sentimental in my old age, 79. And just winding up this last business and looking for another adventure. Writing seems to be, I have a book called Cross Country Ski in 3 Hours, Race in 3 Weeks. But that is not really writing. Like, looking at this, I think, goodness, I had no idea we had so much going on around.
Could you step forward, because you're like so far away, I can barely hear you.
Well, anyway, I had no idea. I wanted to hide. I wanted to hide that.
Okay.
So the reason I got started writing, and I write an inspirational or encouraging message every Sunday. And the reason I started to do that was I've got a friend in Oklahoma who was left to be here in Bend, was having a hard day, and said, "Bob, would you please pray for me?" And so I said, "Sure, I'll pray for you." And so I wrote her back, and I said, "Personally, my life flows better when I give encouragement and hearty compliments and handshakes to other people. Lifting up others always lifts me up." And I kind of went on like that. And she wrote me back and said, "What a beautiful message. I just really settled down and I feel so much better." And I thought, there's probably a lot of people that want to have an encouraged message. So without asking for permission, I just texted 4 people the next week. This was June 8th last year. And I said, just read and repeat this out loud. I said, "I am pretty. I am lovely. I am beautiful. I am gorgeous. I am an amazing person. I am wonderful. I am terrific. I am smart. I am complex. I am desirable. I am interesting. I am who God says I am." And so a year later, I'm still writing these things, and all 4 of those ladies said, "Please keep writing. Please keep sending me more." So now the list has grown to 60 people. And the last one I wrote out was, "Champions don't complain." I had a particularly frustrating day, talking about me. Computer crashed, data ended up in the wrong accounts, can't get hold of the tech, wasted customers' time and my time, fit to be tied. I mean, I was fit to be tied that day. Then I remembered something recently. Shaquille O'Neal commented, "Champions don't complain." He learned that from one of his coaches. After a particularly challenging contest, Shaq started to go off on the refs. The coach stopped him and said firmly, "Champions don't complain." The coach, he was right. Unexpected things happen. Refs have a bad night. Team members have a bad night. Where am I reading here? Champions make choices. They look for tiny differences in timing and attitude and commitment and ability. Champions don't complain, they learn from it. So I'm talking to champions right now. You're a champion. Unexpected things happen. What is done, review it. See where you are and how you can make a better choice. Champions don't complain, they learn from it. That's what champions do. And I got some, I'm gonna say, raging reviews from my group of 60 people. But anyway, I'm glad to be here. I've got a lot to learn. I don't know much about writing. Reducing things down is a big job. I've learned that. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm inspired. Are we inspired?
Feel pretty good. I'll be on my list contact afterward.
Okay.
No complaints.
So you'll be here, stick around. If you want to get on his list, come talk to Bob. Okay, we're gonna jump in. I'm gonna introduce because that's what I do. So y'all know me, I'm Mike Cooper. I'm the president of the Central Oregon Writers Guild. I teach writing at Oregon State University Cascades. And Central Oregon Writers Guild, and then again, we have our 10-month-long Forge online writing program. I do editorial work, coaching. I write mostly fiction. In my master's program, I wrote a collection of short stories, and since I've written 2 novels, neither of which is published because the world, I don't know what's wrong with the world. But I'm revising one of those right now. And this is my beautiful wife. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Irene.
Hi, I'm Irene Cooper. I've met many of you before. It's nice to see everybody. It's nice to be here in this beautiful space. I do a lot of writing. I write poetry. I have written 2 novels. Collection of short stories, those remain to be published, but pieces of that collection have been put out into the world. And then I write all other kinds of stuff because my running joke these days is Michael and I used to be very well-rounded. Now we just do this one thing. But I'm interested in other people's work. I write a lot of critical reviews. I write essays when I get the chance. Because at some point I got very interested in completion and not just my wild and beautiful projects. So, which is what we're going to talk about today. Also, I teach composition, sometimes poetry, but mostly things like composition and developmental lit. Get the basic stuff at COCC, which is an enormous pleasure. Because people walk into that very different than this room. People usually walk into those classes not happy they have to take them, by and large. It's they're absolutely required, and it's such an opportunity to kind of broaden that space or help people broaden that space and find a little bit of their voice on the page or the screen as it most often is these days, and also bring them to completion. Starting with an idea, developing an idea, making choices that either eliminate or expand, to Bob's point there. And then to have something, have this artifact, and to move on, which is another lesson here. Make it move on. Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so we are going to start with a writing exercise. So again, if you've got something to write on, write with. Great, if not, clipboards over in the back side over there.
Say the title of our presentation.
Oh, the title of our presentation is Working with the Madman Architect, Carpenter, and Judge to Write, Revise, and Polish Your Manuscript. We're not going to talk about the madman, the architect, the carpenter, and the judge until after this writing exercise, okay? So this is going to be
And then you'll know why we didn't edit that title.
right, okay. So is everybody ready to do some writing? You didn't know that you were gonna jump right in here and have to write, did you? And those of you at home, same thing, get ready to write. We're gonna write for 7 minutes.
What are we writing?
I'm gonna tell you about it, first here. So there's this idea called free writing. Okay, no, I can't choose that. Thank you. So free writing is a writing strategy that was developed by Peter Elbow, in his book, Writing Without Features, 1973. And it's similar to brainstorming, but is written in sentence form. And the key is that we're not going to stop. We're just going to write. We're going to keep writing, okay? This is what we're gonna do. Okay?
Be permanent.
Right. Be permanent. All right, so free writing increases the flow of ideas and reduces the chance that you'll accidentally censor a good idea, okay? Meaning that your little self-editor, we're not gonna allow them to be part of this process, okay? We're just gonna keep writing and writing. Has proven to increase fluency, i.e. the ability to produce written language easily. Often it is associated with this idea of automatic writing. This is where we're channeling the writing of the gods or the muse or someone else or something like that, okay? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
At the very bottom, so I'm gonna we'll post these slides on the website. There is a little link on this slide to a TEDx talk by Elizabeth Gilbert that Irene is going to talk a little bit about.
Yeah, and that idea of automatic writing, because I'm also a great believer in cross-pollinating the arts. So automatic writing mostly emanates from the Dadaists with the early part of the 20th century. And they were all about games, much like the Olympians later, but all about the games. And one of the things would just be to free the subconscious. The whole idea was to free the subconscious and come to something. So this idea of automatic writing, letting yourself be moved by intellectually, say, association, or if you're going to speak in a more visceral way, intuition, or these things, but allow the form to expand into something that doesn't look a lot like form, which is what that Get the Editor Out of the Room is all about. We'll talk more about that. Elizabeth Gilbert gave a great TED Talk in 2009, still worth watching. It's about 19 minutes long. And she's at the point in her life where she has just finished the mega popular Eat, Pray, Love. I don't know how many people got divorced and started a new chapter after that one, but more than one. And she was there to talk about the extreme mental pressure of being in a position where you have achieved some level of success. She said, I'm a young woman, I'm 40 years old. Gotta love her for the young woman at 42, points for that. But also the idea that it may well be that my most successful work is behind me. And this is what I do. How do I live with that? She has a lot of things to say about the pressure on the modern creative, the human relational post-enlightenment artist, who it's their job to carry the whole thing. And she has a message that says there might be another way, and it's ancient. It comes from the Greek daemon. It comes from the Roman genius. It's not something you are. It's something that accompanies you. It's something outside yourself to share the burden of this pressure, because most of us don't get to the end of something due to some kind of pressure from the ego. So the first thing you have to do is write poorly. First thing you have to do is write freely. And I say poorly kind of tongue in cheek. It doesn't matter what the quality of the writing is. It's just that it gets done.
All right. So here's what we're going to do with our free writing. We are going to write down every idea that you can think of about your topic, and we're going to give you a prompt here. no matter how crazy that idea is. Do feel free to go completely off topic. So once I give you this prompt, you can write about whatever you want. Just go away from the prompt. I will tell you that I almost always, when I'm prompt writing and free writing, I will end up talking about my father within 3 sentences.
Like Michael's own personal 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever that was, it always leads back.
Do keep your pen, pencil, fingers moving. Remember permit. Do not worry about correct grammar, spelling, or word choice. Okay, if you can't think of a word, just write down, I can't think of the word. What I'll usually do is I'll just draw a blank and come back and fill it in later, right? If you can't think of what to write, I can't think of what to write. I can't think of what to write. I can't think of what to write. I can't believe Mike is making me do this. This is still enough. Literally, just keep going, okay? Okay.
Can I share something?
You
I
got it.
had great success with this when I was on a retreat and they called it hot penning.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
like you can't not move the pen.
Right.
So you end up saying, it freed me, like
Yeah.
in a way that words didn't.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
You cannot stop the pen. Oh, you
Yeah.
have to get, and things came out that were, it's same idea, just like that little visual made all the difference for me. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
El Doctoro, this is kind of how I think of free writing. Talks about writing is like driving at night in the fog. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. So we're just driving down a road in the fog, forward, 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 forward. Not gonna stop and look back where we've been. We're moving forward, moving forward. Keep the pen moving. All right, before we start, calm your mind. Don't think about what happened this morning or yesterday or last week. Don't think about this afternoon or tomorrow or next week. Be here now, take a deep breath, be observational, aware, and impartial. Go to your happy place. If you don't have a happy place, you can borrow mine. That's a nice happy place, isn't it? Okay, are we ready? We're gonna write for 7 minutes.
And I'm just gonna add, going back to E.L. Doctorow, he also famously wrote, I don't know which of his doorstopper novels this was, but the entire thing came because he saw something red fluttering in a bare winter tree while he was driving. 1,200 pages. So associate. Let things take you somewhere.
All right, I'm gonna put an image up here and we're gonna start writing for 7 minutes. Ready? Oops, this one. I thought I deleted that, sorry. That's the one. Got about one more minute. All right, finish up where you are with that. How was that experience?
It's fun.
We discovered some things that we didn't start out to discover. It's with the rate. That's what normally happens to me, is that I end up finding something that I hadn't initially thought of. Sentences reveal the next sentence, reveals the next sentence, reveals the next sentence, and that 15th sentence is one that you never would have thought of if the first 14 didn't come. That I think that one of the things that pre-writing does is like I said, it gets rid of that editor, and people talk about writer's block. And my thought is that writer's block, and I see this a lot, particularly with college students, writer's block isn't really writer's block. And I say, and that's why that little picture was there, I say, if I asked you to write about a koala bear wearing yellow rain boots and with a pink umbrella, you would be able to do that, right? So that's why that exists. I actually meant to delete it from this slide. But this is, you can always write about that, right? It's that editor in your brain that gets in the way of all that. Okay, so next part of this process is we're gonna go through the stuff that we just wrote, read through there, and I want you to underline, put asterisks next to, highlight, whatever, little bits and pieces that you are impressed by or surprised by, or that showed you some insight or something. Okay, so we're gonna just take 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah, 2 minutes plus. And in the spirit of the hot pen, I often refer to this as the heat. So it doesn't need to be content oriented or specifically content oriented, it can be language oriented, it can be anything that interests you, that catches your eye, that you linger on even for a moment. Whatever is bubbling up in that piece, for whatever reason, that's the heat.
Yeah, so a good point from Irene's point. If you had this perfect turn of phrase that you're just super impressed with, circle that. If you had some insight that is new to you that came from the writing, circle that, right? So kind of go through there and just pick and choose things that speak to you. And we're just gonna give you a couple of minutes to do that, and then we'll move to the next part of this.
No. It's a Latin S.
This is filler text.
Yeah.
So it's used often in examples. So if you're showing an example of how a website looks, we grab this filler text and put that in there. All right, so I'm seeing people looking up trying to read this and translate it. Stop that. Now, we're gonna talk about haiku. Okay,
Sharp
I know.
pivot.
you didn't think we were gonna talk about haiku today. So traditional haiku follow specific formal elements. Particularly in English, we go with this 5-7-5 syllable structure. Japanese has different beats in their language and called hon. So it's not necessarily syllabic the way that we do here. And often translations of Japanese haiku don't follow that 5-7-5. It's nice to have a structure to work into where you go, this is 5, this is 7, this is 5. But if you don't want to do that and it's not working and you're trying to force something, don't worry about it. But often there include seasonal references. They may include comedy, vulgarity, profundity, surprise, and even melancholy, juxtaposition of unexpected elements that create a moment of insight. That's the goal of the haiku. Okay. This is a 5-7-5 haiku. Haiku are easy, but sometimes they don't make sense to refrigerate. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 haiku are easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but sometimes they don't make sense. And then refrigerator 5. These are some Japanese haiku. For example, this is from Matsuo Basho, who's one of the big haiku dudes. Temple bell stops, but the sound keeps coming out of the flowers. Oh, snail, climb Mount Fuji, but slowly, slowly. Summer grasses, all that remains of warrior's dream. I kill an ant and realize my 3 children have been watching. This is one of the most famous haiku. The old pond, a frog jumps in, splash. She just went like this. Like, what the hell is that? Yeah.
No, where's the 5? Where's the 5 in the?
So again, these are translations.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So I know, but again, if you want to do 5-7-5, feel free to do 5-7-5. Okay.
Would you go back to where you talked about? The
I think
haiku itself, yeah, I wanna talk about something.
Okay.
Like
This one.
that one, yeah. So you might ask yourself, WTF on the haiku, Mike and Irene, we're here to talk about revision and stuff, but this is what I want to draw our attention to. That in this very short piece, and for our purposes, it's really about just 3 lines. It's really about this progression of movement, and there are a couple of gaps. So the idea that we get this emotional impact, whether it's humor or a combination of humor and melancholy, or it takes us to this place of grief, that's all happening in this progression of 3 lines. So when we get to something, when we say something like a juxtaposition of unexpected elements that create a moment of insight, we're talking about arguments, we're talking about novels, we're talking about lyric essays, we're talking about the quality of craft that keeps putting unlike and like things together until they make these vibrations that bring us to this place of change and insight. So whether it's 3 lines, or whether it's Dr. O's 1,200 words, this is the journey that we're talking about tonight. We can go on and on about various narrative arcs and other places to go, but.
So this is one way to look at this. You do not have to do this. Do you want to talk about this? This is
the template that I use if I'm going into a kindergarten class or if I'm teaching really any audience of any age or any ability about haiku, because this is what I like about. So that's why I come from this perspective, because haiku, again, it can be natural elements. It cannot be, I wrote a haiku the other day about my adult daughter getting health insurance. It can be about anything. Which was an ecstatic haiku, by the way. So the first line, is an observation. The thing you see or observe in the world, a simple observation. And I say simple, but that requires us to stop. It requires us to be attentive. It requires us to take something in. It's not a glance. It's not in passing. It's not peripheral. It's attention. Line 2, expand. And that could be something you think about the thing or something you see about the thing. Most often, we're just giving that thing or that quality some sort of depth. And then, as we saw in some of that haiku, there is a leap. And it may not be refrigerated. It may not be this entirely surrealist leap of where did that come from. It may, what we call in the poetry world, be a vectoring, where it is still attached to the first and second line. But it takes you to the place that you alone are going to go to in your set of experiences and your aesthetic. And that's the free zone. That's the magic you're trying to get on that third line. You're not trying to solve anybody's life. You're not trying to end a story. Up and out. So we're still thinking.
Okay. We're gonna give you 5 minutes to write a haiku.
Using your.
So what we did was we took all that information that was poured onto the page, we went through and we picked some stuff out. Now that stuff that you picked out, that's where the haiku comes from.
Oh.
I know.
In 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes. Ready? Get set. Anybody have any questions? You don't, because you're all amazing writers, so.
Mhm.
Okay.
You want it?
Always good to hear laughter when we're making haiku. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
What is the count again?
575.
Oh, thanks.
About one more minute. Okay, finish up where you are. Who wants to share a haiku? Amanda.
Okay, all right. The end of the road, how different than the start. Who has she become?
Nice.
Yeah, I like that.
How did that progress from what you rewrote into what you picked into the haiku?
So when I looked at her, she looked really tired and worn. She didn't have her shoes anymore. And to me, it looked like she had been on a long journey. And she looked like from where she was probably way different than when she started. And so it made me curious about the journey of what it took to get from where she was to where she is now and how that changed her. So that was kind of the beginning of my thoughts. And I kind of, when I was thinking about it, I looked at it and she was tired, exhausted, and worn. And I just looked at her and I said, she's not who she was when she started that trip. She's a different person now.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That painting, I'm very familiar with it. It's in Chicago at the Art Institute.
Oh, is it?
And when I saw that, it reminded me that every time I go back to Chicago, I go to the Art Institute and it's like seeing old friends by seeing the same paintings on the wall. So what I wrote was, lark in the morning hangs on a gallery wall, an old friend in Chicago.
Oh,
Nice.
I like that.
So that's painting is called Song of the Lark
Yes,
by Jules Breton, French painter, 1884. And interestingly, it's interesting that it's in Chicago.
and you know why?
I don't know why.
Because all of the wealthy people from the United States went to Europe to buy art. And the French sold them bad art.
And that was better.
Okay, they sold them Impressionists, they sold them Van Goghs, they sold them Monets, they sold them Picassos, etc. All of that beautiful art is in the United States, particularly in Chicago.
Yeah. Bill Murray, if you search Song of the Lark and Bill Murray, he had an epiphany with that painting. He's like talking about it in tears, right? You can't imagine Bill Murray in tears, and
Yeah.
everything, but he goes on about that painting. Yeah.
Mine's was, I was focusing on the scenery, the sunset. Sunset's bright colors changing with the evening's light. I am altered, free.
Free, nice. I like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Good.
That again.
Yeah, beautiful.
Sunset's bright colors changing with the evening's light. I am altered, free.
And Joan, how did your free write and what you picked?
Well, it
Working.
started all about the sunset and how the light changes and how all of a sudden, eventually her feet were getting cold and, the light on the road is different and is she gonna make it where she's supposed to be? But I like the shadows darkening and hanging on to every ounce of light to do what she.
That's great. Yeah, nice. Two hands here and see.
All right. So what did God do? I have paid the heavy price.
I cannot go on.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that in her face and the way she's looking up.
Also,
That's.
Yeah, that's sickle.
Yeah.
That's-
yeah.
She was cutting wheat field.
yeah. Is that what you wrote about? Was
Yeah.
you put her in that?
Yeah, she was done with farming.
Oh, mine went way far away.
Yeah, they had a bad year of crops, it's like.
Even more than this.
Yeah, the storytelling.
Mine.
It's great.
Woman, I can hand direct no.
So I wrote about a sort of journey we had once, you and I and his brother. And it became this. The island called us leafy paths through a bright dream where the visions twist.
Nice. Nice. I'm sure.
A corrugated road. It was even listed on the map. So where the hell are my shoes?
Talk about what happened in your free write.
I'm writing about a trip across the Nullarbor.
Okay, and so that's where you took that painting and inserted it into your own. Into your own writing, yeah, you definitely felt your feet.
And that twist I wanted to recommend too, that's also that lift, right? That bit of movement in the end, that idea that something mysterious is in that last line.
I saw the picture and I looked into the mood of the woman and imagined that she was pregnant. And there's the poem, exotic allure, thrash and then give into a crowing rooster.
Nice.
Huh.
Nice. And that crowing rooster is the splash in Basho's piece, right? Is that distraction, is that jump into something else, right? There is a Japanese narrative style that I have been researching lately, and by researching, I mean watching lots of anime movies. Called Kisho Tenketsu. So Kisho Tenketsu, and it's a 4-part, comes from a Chinese poetry, which is where this where haiku comes from as well. But it's the introduction, the sort of continuation, the escalation or the continuation, the twist and the conclusion. And in some cases, and we do this in our own work too, that twist and conclusion can happen at the same time, right? So yeah, that was a good example of that.
We got some chat back from there.
Oh. Oh, wow. Those are great.
Yeah, let's read them.
Rusty cow.
Yeah, we're gonna read these out loud for those of you at home. Okay, do you want to read?
From Christine. Dusty calloused feet quickly retreat from red grass. Subject nullified.
Nice.
Mark. Scythe of violence, cleaving history apart, yet the future wins.
Nice.
Alice. This little woman, spending time in the mountains alone by herself.
Nice.
All right.
Thank you, those of you at home, for sharing those.
Thank you, Zoom
Thanks, Liz. All right. I'll get to you right after me.
Central Oregon, sunset orange, purple, gray, because forests burn.
Because
Forests burn.
forest burns. Yeah, nice. Yeah, when I first moved here, we went outside one day and I was like, Irene, the sun is red. I'd never seen that before, right? And it's beautiful, but because of the destruction, right? Yeah, so it's a good juxtaposition, a good twist there. Mary.
Why are you framed, lovely? Every day I see through you. Dream. Scarcity, abundance, something in between.
Nice. Nice. Well, there's a lot going on. Kira?
Well, that slide you put up with the yellow boots,
You went there?
that's where I
Yes.
went.
Yeah.
I like the yellow boots best. Pink boots outnumber green ones. My sister got mine.
Lot of pathos in
Yeah.
Mushrooms beneath ground, the meadow is not surprised. Root to root, plants sing.
Nice. So what was I want to hear about your free write.
The size was the thing that I saw, just, that was the, thing that really grabbed my focus. And then I went to what, side is for, and then what it often does, and then I went into this whole farming thing,
Yeah.
about the soil and the history of farming. And then I was just thinking about how mushrooms connect everything, the mycelium and.
Yeah. Would you have like 2 or 3 pages of free write there? You did the whole, where you got into the history of farming and everything. That's great. All right, couple more. Jake?
Well, this is kind of scary for me. I've never done anything with poetry or anything, so I'll take a wild shot at this and mostly to learn if I'm on the right track. I guess that's all my apologies. Blue placid water, clear blue sky above my head, dirt under my nails.
Nice, nice. Yeah. And there's that connection there, right? So you're also doing a cinematic trick, right? Which is coming from big down to little, down to the point where we actually see the dirt in the nails.
Yeah. Cosmos to small and physical.
Yeah.
And dirt under my feet would have been expected. which
Yeah.
then
There you
there's,
go.
Like, oh, and like.
Yeah.
And that's what when we're talking about the juxtaposition or unlike things or creating energy, exactly that.
Well, my thought on that was, because I didn't think about that for circumstances, but dirt under your fingernails is a real contrast to the beauty.
Yeah.
That is bringing you
Yeah.
back to the reality.
It's an action as well, right? That dirt had to get dirt under your feet is there anyway,
Yeah.
but dirt in your nails had to get there, right? Robbie, what do you got?
I would wait as far, so.
That's fine. I think the front row did that too. I heard them. It was great.
Yeah, full of scent, aroma of the exotic, feels like yesterday. And for me, I looked at the farming and it felt really earthy to me. It felt like an Eastern European farming scene. And I thought, what are earthy vegetables you pull out of the ground? A lot of beets, and my wife's like, that's not earthy, it tastes like dirt. I'm like, I like beets. And I was like, well, then how about turmeric and then cloves? And then cloves took me back to Indonesia, where I lived for 3 years in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And if I just go near one, my head and it just immediately I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm transported like that.
Can you read your
Redolent clove scent, aroma of the exotic, feels like yesterday.
Nice. Feels like yesterday is a great line. I fully agree with you, your wife, on the
dirt.
Yeah, she likes beets, no beets. Go ahead, go.
So this is, we like went off the track of Stephen King sort of said. Barefoot woman walks, scythe in hand the reckoning, sun sets on someone.
Ooh. That's the book jacket cover. So we're gonna go on to, remember that beginning part where we talked about the madman, the architect, the judge? Now we're gonna talk about it. But if people want to share haiku after this, we've got more. All right, so this is Betty S. Flowers. She wrote an essay called The Madman, Architect, Carpenter, and the Judge, Rules and the Writing Process. There's a link on this slide to that essay itself. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means to me and how I use this in talking about writing. So Betty says that we have 4 roles inside of us when we're writing, okay? So we have the madman, the architect, the carpenter, and the judge. The madman was that free write that we did. The madman's job is to get down all the information. And I actually had a madman moment this morning. Begrudgingly, I was rewriting a chapter. Actually, I was writing a new chapter into a novel that I'm working on at Quiet Writing this morning. And I was writing, I'm like, no, that's not good. No, that's not good. And I was finally just like, you know what, just go for it. Just write this stuff. So I was having a dialogue between 2 people and I just let them talk to each other. Just go. And I'm like, I'll come back later. Look at this. So that's the madman. Madman takes all the information, puts it out there. Everything that you can think of, tangents, digression, whatever it is. And then the architect comes along and the architect looks at this and says, we have to put this in some kind of a structure, right? So the architect puts that into form, into structure. The carpenter then comes along and does the line edits and the detail work and the finishing and makes sure we have the pretty words and that we've taken out the cliches and we have our commas in the right place and all that sort of stuff. Then the judge shows up and the judge looks at it and says, this is what we want. This works. Or they say, no, this isn't working. And they send it back to one of the other people. The point of Betty's essay is that the madman and the judge can't be in the room at the same time. The judge will be leaning over the shoulder of the madman saying, no, 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 don't do that. No, that's not good. People are going to think you're crazy and so on and so forth, which is what I was doing this morning. Okay. So we have just done this. We had a madman moment. Then we had our architect moment. Okay. Where we picked out the things that were working for us. Then we had our carpenter moment, and then we finished our piece, and then we had some judging, and we had our own personal judging. Okay, so some quotes from famous folk. This is Peter Elbow, and that's Peter Elbow's elbow. The guy who did
Michael's a dad.
Yeah. The consequences of writing is that you must start by writing the wrong meanings in the wrong words. But keep writing until you get the right meanings in the right words. Only in the end will you know what you're saying. So it's okay to not be perfect in your first draft. When I teach classes in college, composition classes, I always have 3 versions of any project. We have our first draft, we do peer response, then we do another draft, and then we do a conference with me, and then we do another draft, okay? Most of my students, particularly at OSU, are those students, which you all probably were as well, who wrote your paper the night before, turned it in and got it in. And you had been trained to believe that you could write a final draft in one sitting, right? What really happened was that your teacher was overwhelmed with all those people who had spelling problems or wording problems or returning their work in late or weren't doing it, and they paid all their attention to them. What they did with you is they said, this is fine. And it's not fine because you can do better, right? And so we can revise, we can rework, we can edit. There are people who have spent, I have spent years and years on a novel, rewriting, and getting better and better and better, and getting more to that point and more to that point and more to that haiku moment that we're looking for, right? This is about structure. This is about the architect. Paul Hawkins says, the strong structure is invaluable to a writer. It will help you through your story. You will start to know what needs to come next, what to reveal next, because it will fit into the framework you've been building. The architect doesn't have to come at the end, nor does the architect have to come at the beginning. The architect can work with the madman as we go through here, okay? When I was in school writing essays and we had typewriters, we had to turn in an outline to our essay before we turned in the essay. I never even wrote a word about it. I had to turn in this outline, right? So then comes the night before that the essays due, and I take my outline and I write into my outline, which is painful. And I tried to do that in my writing as well. And my writing is going, no, I want to go this way. I want to go this way. And I'm like, no, we have to stick to the outline. We have to stick to the outline, right? So the outline is malleable. The outline can come later, the outline can change, and so on and so forth. That structure, but we have to have something that we're working, and we can move the building blocks around. Okay. This is Oscar Wilde. This is the carpenter. Okay. How many of us have done this? I have absolutely done this. I have spent most of the day putting in a comma and the rest of the day taking it out, right? That's when we know we're done. Right? But that is absolutely a carpenter move here, right? And here is Stephen King, Zadie Smith. Stephen, this is the judge. Writers are often the worst judges of what they have written. This is why we're in this room together. We need each other. We need readers, we need fellow writers, we need editors, we need people to look at our work and say, here's what it does to me. Here's my feedback. Here's how it makes me feel. Okay. For self-editing, Davey Smith says the secret to editing your work is simple. You need to become its reader instead of its writer. That is hard. It's really hard with memoir, right? If those of you who are writing memoir, to say, here's my life, here's what happened, and be able to go, I'm going to read this like it's somebody else's life, like it's somebody else's writing. That's a difficult thing to do, but it's important to do. Okay. So this is in a nutshell, this is the writing process. And we just want to, we're open to any questions or discussion or thoughts or feedback or anything that you have. So we've got 15 minutes here to just talk. But this is also part of our thinking process. And we'll talk more about that for those of you who are going to come to the workshop on Saturday, this idea of what we call metacognition, which is to be able to think about our thinking. And to be able to look at our work through that lens of the reader, to be able to look at the work, critically analyze our work from outside instead of inside. Any thoughts on what we just talked about, or any questions that anybody has? Mir.
I'm struggling with years of really good hot penning put into a structure that then I go, oh, but you want to go here. I'm pretty good at saying pause structure, go there, and I don't know how to marry them back together. What's the process or thinking or work that I sit down to do to get that to happen? Because then I trail and then I go back to the note. I don't know how to get that back.
Do you ever watch any videos of people making like a clay pot on a wheel?
Yeah,
And especially those videos
that I know about it.
Well, then, there's always like normally when you watch those things, there's always a place where the thing falls apart, right? Like that's the best part, where the thing, like the shaping is happening, the material is there, it folds in on itself. It has to be started anew. One of Michael's and my favorite pandemic TV shows was The Great Pottery Throwdown. Anybody ever watch that? Out of the tears every single episode. And who knew, right? Because not one of us do that sort of thing. But the idea is with that hot pen, that material is all of your, what we say in the culinary world, all your mise en place on the table. Right? So it's not, doesn't have any more. I mean, the idea of what is the thinking, so that stuff needs to be worked, not to say overworked. So I would say, we did haikus today. Truthfully, when you have written a complete novel and you are trying to find out what that thing is about, you might write a series of haiku that asks that question. This idea of trying to metacognition, thinking about what you're trying to think about. Where was this hot pen going? What became your fascinations and your obsessions? And then lift that from the mess and start something new. And that idea of the clean, fresh restart is something that a lot of people find refreshing. Remove it from its morass of originality.
In a ceramic wheel, it may come a different form that
you're not going to fix that lip that has collapsed on itself.
Yeah, and you're not going to fix the outline and fit.
That stage.
That speaks to me.
It's just like at that stage, right? Okay. It's not about fixing. It's about starting something that takes off. And you restart and you restart and you restart until you're like, oh, okay. Now is what Michael was talking about. This sentence is actually falling into another sentence. And I have a sentence to follow that. What Gordon Lish used to call consecution. One thing will lead to this other thing. But you can't fix the slop that you created. And like, we love that slop. Yeah. But that's not where you come in with the carpenter. I also write in a lot of different forms. So our forge partner, Ellen Santasiero, used to do these fantastic, like 7-week in her living room nonfiction seminars. We go for 2 hours every week for 7 weeks in Ellen's living room. It was quite lovely. I didn't study nonfiction when I was in school, so this was to, broaden my horizons and stuff. And we wrote so much in those 7 weeks. I probably had 40 or 50,000 words that came out in those 7 weeks. They were not informed, but it was a lot of material. Now, did I think it was informed when I wrote these? Did I think they were essays? Sure, I did, because I was optimistic. But that stuff stayed, and then maybe a year later, I started writing poems from that material, which largely comprised my first published collection. The stuff, I had written it had metabolized. It wasn't they weren't essays, but they did find another form. And within that, there were multiple forms. And then a couple of years later, I went back and wrote some essays. Same bucket of slop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, same materials.
But it pulled. And so the form, and they're not all saying the same thing. Because again, if you tell a story of a memory or what have you, there's always going to be a permutation, a different point of view. You're a different person every time you pick up that hot pen.
Can I ask a follow-up? So when in particularly the nonfiction world, so I'm doing both, but thank you, because I actually have a book that's ceramic form in my writing place, because I chose not to do that in particular and to use literary books for the artist in me. So that is so particular, you can't even imagine. However, nonfiction, how do you just kind of go do 3 drafts and get it out for review, like I used to do for clients, or do you, because I'm a client, my business is the client.
So
So
when you can ask the question, what is this thing about?
yeah,
You're
how do
getting
you
close.
decide, how do you decide when it's done, a draft that's done for review, because you can always go back and re-put slop somewhere, right? The artist in me doesn't know how to.
So there's a
Resolve.
point at which, this is good, I wanted to bring this up with the haiku, yeah, there's a point at which you kind of run up to the end of your abilities, right? As far as to be able to see this thing, not your talent, not your skill,
Yeah.
but how you are reading your own work.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, whether it's draft number 2 or 32, because there's no number for how many drafts you need, I'm just, that's a great disappointment, but there just isn't. But the idea of, so when this was such a small little microcosm of this, but when we pre-wrote today, we picked out this heat of what was important to us. Everybody came out with a different point of view and a different perspective. And then we made it public. We published that work today in the most sincere sense of that word, which does not mean in a journal or somewhere else. To publish is to make public. And that is not only are you making that public for the horrible idea that somebody else is going to judge you, which is terrifying, of course, always, even amongst friends. I don't think we ever completely lose that. But you are also putting it in your own ear, which many of us do not do when we write. We don't speak our work aloud for the most part. But when you have it, so not only did everybody else hear your haiku today, but it went into your ear. And that's a revision process. That will tell you a lot of things about where that piece of work is.
Somewhere in there, Irene talked about the idea of what the work is about. And what it's about when you start to write and what it's about when you finish writing is usually different. And if we're doing creative writing, we have an aboutness in our work. We have a message, we have a significance, we have a theme, we have something that we want to say about the human condition, right? And when we've found that, and we often won't find that, the madman will put down a bunch of information and might be hidden in there, right? But the job of the architect and the carpenter and the judge are to figure that out, to ferret it out. And once we've found it, everything that you write goes towards that. It's like the punchline of a joke. Everything in the joke goes to make that punchline be as effective as possible. And the process of writing is where we find out that stuff, I think. And that, as Irene said, that may be in draft 3, it may be in draft 32. It may be in the 15th version of that essay, or we have a tendency to write let me know if you disagree with this, but we have a tendency to write about the same thing over and over again. From different perspectives, right? We're always trying to figure out that one thing, always trying to say that one thing. And it's ultimately kind of the why are we here thing. But we all see it from different perspectives, right? And we walk around the world and we go, why is that? Right? And now I want to write about it. I want to figure it out.
Michael's gonna give me a thing too. Absolutely, but we had a quote by Zadie Smith up there, and Zadie Smith is she's famous for her novels. White Teeth was her debut novel, I think it was her debut novel, anyway. Very famous novelist, but also a very famous art critic and essayist. But she wrote kind of an art of the essay piece that kind of revealed that she uses a very static 6-piece form that she learned when she was in college, and she uses it to this day, which surprised me because her essays don't read like that. Her language is really vibrant. Stuff just jumps off the page. But she looked at, and when I went back to look at one of her essays, I was like, damn, it actually, she has a form that she felt for essays. Now, not for novels. And the reason I really like that information is because we're also going to be our own individual architects, right? You can write into a template of a haiku, you can do your 5-7-5. And you don't have to. The idea of form is that it allows you to continue. The idea of form is that you find your voice in that form. And that can mean a very highly structured 6-part essay, or it can mean some lyric 1 line to a page, light of fancy. But you will hear your own voice in that form. And there's no shame on that continuum, right? If you are a hardcore 14-line iambic pentameter sonnet writer and you're killing it, keep it moving. I mean, the idea is you find your fit. You're not going to listen to somebody else tell you what something ought to look like or what it ought not to look like.
My comment has to do with, I guess, the creative process or the thinking process. And I think that if you have an intention to write about a subject, that intention is coming from a part of your brain that I think is highly prejudiced. And so you put it down, and especially if you're looking for something surprising or humorous, it's hard to access that. But I think there may be another part of our brain, this creative genius that's in there, that maybe just like throws out something in the middle of the night when you're asleep, maybe days later, where you just have this like twisted view of something, maybe even something that you've written before. And you have to embrace that. I think very few of us are like a Robin Williams that can just spew out all this amazingly, great stuff, right? So I think it's valuable to revisit, especially in times when you have that spark of creativity, that inner creative person inside of you is like just giving it to you.
And I agree with you. And in a lot of cases, that comes when you're not trying.
Exactly.
I can't tell you how many times I wake up in the middle of the night and email myself. Right, because I know I'm not going to remember this in the morning, so I email that. But the writing process happens. You're writers. That's what we do. Sorry.
Well,
you're writing all the time.
And not sorry, because as you're talking, I'm also thinking, we have a tendency also to look at finished products and compare our work to finished products, which is like death to the writer. Right? It doesn't show the author's process. I was reading something about Mel Brooks the other day because he just turned 100 or whatever, and he said, like, even Mel Brooks isn't Mel Brooks, right? Like Blazing Saddles didn't come on the scene fully formed. There was collaboration involved, there was writing, there was, but when we see the finished product, it's so easy to be kind of, the worst part of our artistic self can be really thwarted by the idea of what perfection already lies out there. And truthfully, that's not where the fun is anyway. So it's in the making. And it's in that moment too, when you crack yourself up.
What were you gonna say, Ken?
So I like this idea of the 4 persons, the madman, the architect, the carpenter, and the judge.
I kind of disagree with the judge part, because I think it's impossible to get the judge out of any of those others.
Absolutely.
It's always gonna be, you gotta try and cut it off, but it's always
Yeah.
gonna be there. And the architect, I've never heard of an architect who, after they finish a building, gives it to a judge and say, what do you think? You know, their ego is huge, and they don't even listen to what their clients say. Hand it off to a third person and tell me what you think.
So many skylines can attest to that.
You've clearly,
Yeah.
you've clearly had some issues with architect.
So I think, you know, the judge is the editor. Is it really even possible to edit your own work?
I
where
don't-
you know your story,
I
you
don't
know your
think so.
characters, you know your setting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think of the writing process also like I'm gonna go to hike out to Flatiron Rock in the Badlands. So I have an idea, I have a direction, and so it's that inspiration of the thing to write about that you were talking about, right? So I know I'm gonna go do that, right? I think I'm gonna drive my car out 16 miles east of town. I'm gonna park in the little parking lot. I think I'm gonna walk out to Flatiron Rock, walk around Flatiron Rock, and then come back to Ancient Juniper Trail, then get back in my car and drive home. Possibly stop somewhere and get some food on the way home. That's what I think I'm gonna do. Now I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna get in my car. I'm gonna realize I don't have enough gas to get there. I'm gonna have to go to the gas station. At the gas station, I might meet an old friend and go have lunch with them. I may get there and decide that I'm gonna go off trail. I may go part way, I may trip and hurt myself. Whatever happens, when I get done with that trip is what really happened. My intention is there. My judge is there. But what actually happens is what actually happens, right? So the story is what happens, is what actually happened rather than my intention. So we do have that judge who says, you know what? It's really weird that such and such happens. I think I'll write about that, right? The idea of what Betty says in this essay is that if we're in the process of, if we're writing and we're trying to write the finished work, it's hard for us to get through those sentences because and I have done this. I don't know how many of you have done this where you've written a sentence and you go, no, right. And you write another sentence or you're just sitting there trying to write, you write chapter 1 and then you go, and you're like saying to yourself, this sucks. This isn't going to be any good. How is this going to possibly be good? What can I say? Right. So the idea is to just go, whatever, right? At this point, and the judge kind of sits back and goes, all right, I know we're doing this, right? But it can't obviously leave you, right? So I write my madman and my judge work together. I'll write something madman, and then the next day I'll have the judge look at it, fix it, and then I'll go madman again. And then, so that's how I progress through something, right? Is that I sort of clean it up before I go to the next thing, particularly with the longer work. With a short story, I can go through the whole thing madman and then come back. But in a longer work, I have to do it in pieces. That's my process. But I get what you're saying. You're right. I mean, it's ridiculous to say that you're not judging your work when you're doing it. The idea here is to allow yourself to write whatever it is that you want.
But I'll make a semantic distinction between discernment and judging. I mean, I think judge is supposed to be that hardcore word that hits us a little harder. But the idea we have to travel with discernment. We're not just, we're not just spewing out. We have plans, we have plots, we have characters, we have curiosity about them. Discernment will help us make choices along the way. But is this any good? Is the level of judge we want to shut up.
All right, it is after 7. Does anybody have a haiku that they burningly want to share that we didn't get to?
I have something to ask.
Yeah.
I wondered how the group would feel if we had the chairs turned towards the center aisle and we were looking at each other. I just would feel more comfortable being able to connect in a face and a voice. So I was just suggesting that maybe we could hear each other a little bit better as well. So I don't know how anyone else feels about it.
I'm not clear what you're asking.
These chairs just turn some kind of face with a chevron
A
circle.
little chevron kind of action?
Yeah,
All right.
opposing,
Like that?
yeah, like just. So we're facing each other, cause I.
With a presentation, so like next month
No,
when
for
we,
discussion.
oh, for now. Oh, okay.
Because I'm not getting to know people from their backs.
Right, so the idea of that now is stand up, eat cookies and, salami, and walk around and say hi to everybody. And that's also the point of the name tag, so now I can walk up to you and go, oh, hi, Robbie, I'm Mike, right? That's part of the deal, and also if you come a little bit early, we can do that as well. But I like that idea, and we'll do that in,
Not felt the same way.
Yeah. You guys, this is Linda back here. Everybody, before you leave, everybody say hi to Linda.
So address the chat. So, by the end of tonight's class, could you please tell us if there's a big difference between tonight's presentation and the one you two will deliver on Saturday? Well, first and foremost, 2 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah. So it's a 3-hour, get it done. And this was really sort of an overview. There'll be quite a bit of writing in the 3-hour workshop. There will be some peer interaction in the workshop. It's really expanding on these very surveyed subjects we talk about.
Just bringing in work of our own, or are we starting with?
No, we actually are going to generate everything in the workshop.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
And there are, I think, as far as I know, there are 6 spaces left in that workshop for Saturday. And you can just go onto the Central Oregon Writers Guild website. There's a little register here thing. If you're a member, it's only $10. And that's Saturday from 1 to 4 upstairs.
First one.
Third floor, meeting room, which is on the far edge. All right, thanks, everybody.